interesting to see who we have in that early hot seat.
Underway. One of the strongest time trialists in Africa. We'll be staying with her for quite some time because this, I imagine, will be our gift. And when she gets underway, I imagine that at that point we're going to see just how wearing this course is going to be for some of the favourites who will, of course, come late. It's not as heavy as you might think, but for some European...
in on the morning and you see what the ultimate temperature is going to be, how the air quality is feeling at play, but yeah, definitely an interesting one here in Africa.
Paladin of Italy about to get us started. This is Soraya about to take to the round. To reveal themselves as far as this course is concerned. She's had a pretty good run, the 32-year-old, a veteran status, I think you might say. Some of her results this year just been ebbing a little bit. She was 6th in the national road race of Italy, but she has achieved an awful lot. Second in the Navarra Women's Elite Classic behind Kat Ferguson, actually, at Movistar. So Paladin can actually pull it out of the bag on occasion. I wouldn't say that time trialling is possibly her specialism, but that means that if you're more of a classic rider, of which I think you can possibly say that she is, she won the Giro della Marche in Rosa to announce herself really about 6 or 8 years ago, but also 3 times she's finished in the top 5 in the Amstel Gold Race. That gives you a sense of the sort of classic nature that has attracted some riders. It's actually this is too tough for them and haven't made the trip, but it's opened it up. There's a wider field of riders who can actually achieve it.
Yeah, it's a really exciting day. I do truly believe that because, yeah, it's a very interesting mixed field, and I think, as you say, there is disappointment in some of the riders that we aren't going to see fielding the TT in the men's and the women's today. And of course, we want all of our big names in attendance, but some have decided they're not going to do the travel, make the journey to Rwanda because the course simply doesn't suit them, and they don't think they're in with a shot of a significant result. So there's a lot of people absent, but having said that, there's a lot of people here that can do some really big damage today, and I'm excited to see that. Yeah, Soraya Paladin, such an experienced rider, and also just looking at her individual results, I'd say you've got to temper that with the fact that she's done so much work as a teammate this season, and crashing out of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Yeah, it's immensely impressive how quickly we see riders come back, isn't it?
I'm always struck by it.
And I too talk about it a lot because I don't think you can get away from the fact. Firstly, how are they superhuman superheroes? But also, yeah, I don't think we can shout about it enough. So soon after a broken bone.
You want a specialist? Hao Zhang is one of those. National road race champion last year and 4th in the nationals as far as time trialling is concerned. She can go very, very strongly, and I'm suspecting that this actually will be a bit of a screechy performance early on, because she's not afraid to go very deep very early, actually. Some riders are attack-minded, but they get themselves up to that pitch and are able to hold it. Others, because they know that they're quite peaky, need to keep something back and rise up towards the end of a course. And it just comes down to your own sense of your own survivability on this kind of course.
Completely, and it goes back to the way we've watched some of the best TT specialists in the world measure an effort and win, doesn't it? Because actually you might look at time splits and think you can predict who's got it, but we've seen very experienced riders get it wrong and fall apart. We've seen people going for our records and get it wrong. So it's the people that get it right, just to state the obvious, and it's really, really important.
The Akagera National Park, located in Rwanda's eastern province, stands as a powerful symbol of conservation in some sense. This is what I was telling you about, the big 5. Well, they're here, and of course, most of them, of course, will be visiting the waterhole later on. Giraffes. Do you know, I absolutely love giraffes. And I've always thought, because they look like such gentle, graceful creatures, don't mess with a giraffe, that's all I'm telling you. Whereas buffaloes, you're thinking they look a bit scary, and they're just lovely. Elephants, somewhere in between. You get a grumpy elephant, you're going to be in trouble, but an awful lot of them are just spectacular, majestic.
Come face to face with a grumpy elephant. Put that on the bucket list.
Meanwhile, baboons. Grapes. Don't eat grapes anywhere near a baboon.
Really?
Oh.
I've learned a lot already today.
They love grapes. They will have you for grapes. Yeah, a baboon doesn't like the stalks getting too much. And once the ticks are gone, all you're doing is pecking the hippo. You don't want that. And lions. Can I just say, steer clear. Stay in the car. That's all I'm saying. You get the idea.
I think that's top advice today. Not just gear ratios, but who to avoid.
Yeah, and indeed, what not to eat near a baboon.
Which is important to know. On the clock against the best World Tour riders, the best professionals in the world, gaining the experience of a race of this scale. You can't say enough how significant that is. Rere here, the road race as well. And I think she'll be able to absorb this as well as putting in the level of concentration. You can see how sad some riders are already on this course, and I think it goes back to what we were saying before about the riders that are more specialists in the TT discipline, people that do best setup. You know, there is a huge discrepancy in our sport, and indeed today with different nations with different levels of support coming in today at competition, other riders haven't got that level of experience, have they? That they know with that pressure how it's going to.
Fantastic. It just shows you the weight of expectations that some have. This will, for some riders, be the biggest stage they've ever performed upon.
Completely. And that's why it matters, that's why it's important. We haven't we in recent years with the best riders in our sport being taken out with huge detrimental effects, huge injuries, but coming back so quickly. And I don't know about you, Carlton, but sometimes I have to go back and check myself on when was it that they, because it is seemingly like the blink of an eye that they're not only back in the peloton, but they're back to winning. And so we were talking about Soraya Paladin, who's of course age 7, she had to retire from the race, and it'll be really interesting to see how that recovery's gone for her and how she goes today as quite an early starter.
Do you know what? I did my collarbone, compression fracture, my right collarbone in 2016. I still haven't got over it. It was a long time ago.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at the fact that you're not over a significant injury, but it's such a different, obviously it's a different process, but in terms of the medical attention of the bigger riders, it's so crucial, isn't it? Because they're straight into an assessment. Do we need to do surgery? I presume when you and I break a bone, we don't go straight into the option of patching us up back to full form. Around 6 weeks perhaps minimum for a broken bone, but riders are back so fast because a lot of them do have the expert team of medical experts around them to get them back so fast. But sometimes we do see people come back too quickly and then slowly still suffering.
That's what it's about rest now. Iran Abra is next for Ethiopia. We will have Norway's Ugset after that. Miran Glisse from Mauritius, followed by Marta Patapova, we are riding with at the moment. Just to give you an update on some of our checkpoints. Timing, it is Frolova that has set the benchmark at the first timing point. She's been through there in a 19:10, same time actually as Nerera. So I'm imagining that possibly one of them has gone faster than the other. But for the time being at least, Frolova and Nerera are issued with at the exact same time of 19:10.77. Not quite sure that is even possible, to be honest. But anyway, they'll get separated a little bit later on. They're riding with the same transponder. Watango is a further 18 seconds down, and then it really does fall away. Kiplagat trailing by 3 minutes at the first timing point, and you're going to see some very big gaps. They will start to compress a little bit later on, so don't worry too much about that. This is going to be a in fact, she has been through it at 32.33. Watango nearest to her, but giving away. We did say that. Norway. Gosh, we've actually nudged up towards the Arctic Circle. We're back down, indeed, probably the longest trip actually. We're now back down all the way here at the tropics, the equator almost. That is proper. So as you can hear, we are getting rather excited, and even the start. Look at this, taking every single one of those curves with exactly the right apex. You know, experience brings you an awful lot, but the line, without having to overcorrect, is actually a big thing. You can essentially shorten the distance by taking the absolute correct line, but getting that, mastering it at pace, is a difficult task.
Yeah, exactly, and it goes back to the point we were talking about before in terms of doing recons, but then racing at this level and doing it with the pressure in front of the crowd, with the conditions on the day, with so many unknowns against the best riders in the world. It's another thing to get that right, and yeah, it goes back to the fact that we have seen people get it wrong at the highest level, going for the top podium places.
Check this out. Cobbles. You're kidding me. This late on? No, we're not. It is a proper test late on. Now just start looking at elbows, wrists, and you'll kind of see what the impact is. That's essentially the body's shock absorbers. And this is not a pleasant environment to be in. It's great for us. 1.3 kilometers, 6.3%. So not only cobbles, but a climb as well. You're going to know you have been under pressure. Look at that, 11% as a maximum, 6.3 average over the 1,300 meters. And the most difficult part, and you can see it, the way the buildings are indented into the side of the road here. What a tough way to finish.
This is such an interesting course, and we talked about it earlier on in the programme, didn't we? But now we are seeing the reality of it. You can see what this is taking, the toll it is putting through the body for Nerere here. And yeah, as you say, this is over 6% average. Really seeing now it's heightening up to 11%. The Côte de Kimihurura on paper at the elevation game today. It's cobbles, it's an ascent, it's dead turns, and we're seeing it all at play now.
Absolutely magnificent. And it goes on. Marta Hussen's off at the ramp and it starts her course, and as you can see, fully dialed in right from the very beginning. I'm not saying that there's any disrespect to anyone who has already started. It's just that right now you're getting you start strong. Nerere is doing a fantastic job. This is the biggest day of her cycling career, dare I say it. It doesn't matter what you've done before, if you're representing your nation at your home world championships for the first time in Africa, this is magnificent.
It's huge for Nerere in every sense of it, and we're just keeping an eagle eye on this road surface, aren't we? I'm sure she is just desperate to get to the end of this cobbled section now. But she's the national TT champion, isn't she? And she is first off the ramp for Rwanda today at this level of world championship. It just couldn't be more to her. We saw a smile for anyone that might have missed that in the coverage earlier. We saw a smile on that start ramp, an acceptance of a tune that was there for this rider, and yeah, she's within the last 2k now.
Paladin dominating the opening intermediate, as you can see, for Italy. That really is almost a turnaround, I think you might say. We're seeing a gap of about 40 seconds from Paladin, 37 seconds, I beg your pardon, over Frolova. Nerere, though, she did a phenomenal job at that point. I'm still suspicious about exactly the same time between with Ferrer and Niere, but we'll have a real time. She's only 5,200 meters away from the finish, but look at this grind. The cobbles haven't stopped.
Yeah, and we're just seeing how long this section is. And again, I think, you know, we can all, the riders, team managers, we can look on paper, but until you've done the full recon, until you've done race day, you know, this is a long section to contend with. And people would have looked at so many technical elements today in terms of their setup. Tyre pressure is going to be something people are looking at for this segment. And the setup, how often can you stay in the skis, in the full TT position? And you can see Nerere here just contending with these cobbles and on the lower setup of the bars.
Well, we did say Nerere, but I'm actually looking at the shock waves which are going through her body at the moment. She is not relenting at all. She's still got 1,200 meters to go. This does ease up a little bit. She'll get back to regular asphalt in a few moments' time. But I actually fear for some of the cobbles here. I'm not quite sure how well used this road is. If it's newer, it's worse because some of the cobbles will be sharper on the sides. Can you imagine the heartbreak of getting a puncture late on some of that surface? Finally, she sees the Flamme Rouge, and her day is about to draw to a close. And we will offer up our own applause for what has been a fantastic run for her. Into the barrier section right now, a couple of curves to take, and then she will draw her run at this opening elite women's time trial to a close. And I've got to say chapeau to her.
Chapeau, she's done a brilliant ride. She's back into that TT position. She's back on smooth tarmac off of that cobbled segment, and she's got 600, well, she's coming up to 500 meters to go here. And this is a big moment, and what a ride she's put in today. Look how smooth this is coming in.
Do you know what? I am proud of her and what she has produced today. This has been as brave as you like, and it is a very good time as well. This is our first benchmark. We said 50 minutes. Can she bust it? That would be lovely. She's on a 49.8 now. Just watch that clock. She'll be heading to the line. Slightly indented on the right foot. Nothing wrong with that. I have slightly indented left foot. You know, I find it comfortable. She has been through hell, however, to get to this point. Nerere about to stop the clock. It will be the first time on this first elite race of these World Championships. To the crest right now, we've got a foreshortening camera here. It's a grind to the line. Come on, Nerere. This is brilliant. Bring it home. Do it for Africa. Most importantly, do it for filming her. We're cheering her on. About the last 100 meters, it's going to be just outside the 50-minute mark, but what a proud moment for her. A great day for Africa, and a spectacular moment as well for all fans of cycling globally. 50.07. That was impressive.
What a moment for Nerere, and this rider will now go into the hot seat. She started off all smiles, looking quite measured and relaxed, but then gritted teeth all the way to the line there. This is huge for her, for Rwanda, for everybody watching today. Let's just see the reaction. First rider off into that hot seat now.
Average pace today, 37.3 kilometers per hour. She produced a 50.0767. That is the target time. We're having a workout what we thought the average pace would be today and what sort of time we might get at the distance. I think 50 minutes, and then we thought maybe 45. Let us wait and see. And I think a lot of the field are going to be in that window, aren't they?
Yeah, we just taken from that is that I think we and maybe some of the riders underestimated that final segment, because actually it's even for us here in comfortable chairs, that felt like a long drag through that cobbled part of the race. And even when it smoothed out and she was coming into the closing meters, that was a big slog, that was a big effort, and we'd marked how brilliant that ride was. but it took some doing to really measure that to the line. And I think that's in part been underestimated perhaps about today's course.
That final crest, I mean, it is hellish. The grind to get over the line. The only respite you get appears to be in the last 50 metres. She practically fell over the line there.
Goodness. And it was really interesting to see again predictions on how much the riders would be able to hold position, and she was certainly out of that, wasn't she, to just make sure that she could just maintain as much smooth power as possible across that section. Here's Martin Geesens here, and we talked about a discrepancy happening through the field today. How smooth she is in the TT.
Isn't this an absolutely beautiful absolutely fits the landscape. Whoever was the architect. Yao Shang has 34 seconds better than the field. She has a bit of 12 over Herrera, who has already finished. So, we are starting to see some big trims of times throughout there. And Zhao Zhang, very purposeful. I think we described her for the first couple of minutes, that the Chinese athletes
you can start to see that how the support around to put in the work it takes to be in this position. And I think it's one thing doing some amount of testing, getting your position dialed, but actually being able to secure the best time possible, this duration of time trial. You have got to find that balance, haven't you? You can't be in a super extreme position that ends up being detrimental, and then you can't get the full power out. So as we go up the field here, you're starting to see riders that are so familiar with doing team drills, with being in that testing position, and they got it home, and it's so good to see just how well drilled she is.
Thinking about climbing on just the very last. You can't do it. The last bit you have to get there. There was a bit of a roller coaster. Come off up over the cobble section, actually go into a little ditch, and indeed finish on an uphill lip before that very, very grunt. From Trinidad and Tobago, they produced some spectacular track riders in the past of Trinidad and Tobago. And I always love watching them.
I love Tina Campbell. She is an absolute joy to interview, a joy for our sport. Here she is now, taken to that start ramp, and she will be so focused today. She is another rider that has not only impressed as an individual, but it's transcended that. She has done so much for the cycling community in Trinidad and Tobago, coming into the World Tour, representing, having so many injuries, setbacks, bad luck, missing out on big targets, and she's always just had her heart on her sleeve and said what it means to just represent at this level. And I love her. She's brilliant. What a role model.
Exactly. And, why not the World Championships can come here to why not the West Indies? Trinidad and Tobago right now.
Here she is, Anna van der Breggen. I am very excited, as you can tell, by the buzz in my voice. I cannot wait to see her out there today. We know how well she can time her. But for me, so many new narratives. When I saw, I don't think it was even speculation, I think it was a sudden announcement, Anna is coming back to the World Tour Peloton, having been DF. And I was like, hang on, please tell me this is true, because it was so exciting to have news that she was going to come back in, and the level she's come back in at, having been away from professional racing, is just so staggering. And this is her decision.
Yep.
So I'm excited, and Soraya Hamilton, back with Soraya Hamilton now. I'll park my excitement about Anna for a moment, but we'll get to that. But Soraya Hamilton crashing out of the Tour de France Femme avec Swift with a broken collarbone, and then she's back to this peak performance today. So it's really worth noting where she's had to come from in preparation.
Well, we've seen her on the track, we've seen her on the road, we've seen her just about everywhere. Twice a world road race champion, let's remind ourselves. And when you look at the roster, she won Flanders, she won Slovakia, Amstel Gold Race. I mean, it's actually easier to say things that she hasn't won. Well, she's won our hearts as well. 35 years of age now. She has moved around the world of cycling, let's put it that way, but she has come back to, well, a moment right now which could prove for this veteran, she's 35 years of age now, something amazing. Let's see how she goes, shall we?
I'm really, really excited to see her. Yeah, and just if you just watch exactly that, if you just watch her level of expertise, she is textbook when it comes to riding a time trial. We've seen her win so big in Grand Tours, stage races, where she's been able to solo to victory, and she's one of those riders where you think, okay, maybe she's forcing a break here. Okay, no, she's gone solo, or she's gone very early. Okay, she's still solo, like 50 kilometres later. She is a rider that can do this and can deliver solo, and so she's immensely exciting to watch in the technicality. This is rides today. Let's just watch what she's doing, because we all know that not having the race days in your legs, it impacts even the best riders in the world. Of course it does. She was a direct sporty very successfully for Team SD Works Pro Time for a number of years before deciding to come back to racing. You've got to assume a big part of that was knowing that the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is now on the calendar. It's now possible to field that for the women's peloton, which has been another huge pivotal moment for our sport, a big talking point. But she is back, and she's not just back, she is back at the very top end, so that'll be immensely exciting. But here we go, another big name today.
Niewiadoma off the ramp for Poland, a nation that always punches above its weight, be that on the track, and particularly when it matters. You get to pivotal moments, be that, as I say, something like the Olympics or indeed these World Championships, and Poland always seem to be able to punch above expectations. Niewiadoma, though, is somebody we expect a lot from, and I guess in a mixed course she might be able to surprise even more. We talk about time trials, pure time trialists, and you talk about those who are more adaptable, perhaps. I think that's why Van der Breggen, we're expecting a lot from her, as we just ride here with Soraya Paladin, who is absolutely eating up the opposition out there. She is finding riders left, right and centre. She is dominating as well. So we are starting to see some spectacular performances throughout the entire run, and Paladin leading and comfortable. What about Van der Breggen? Classical time trialling. She has a little bit of lateral movement, but it's where she feels comfortable, and sometimes finding that comfort on a bike is more important than aero purity. I've seen a lot of riders actually go into tunnels and they've been put into the perfect position.
Yeah.
And because they're uncomfortable, they actually generate less power and are less effective, bizarrely. You have to find some comfort.
Completely, and I think a really prime example of that is when we saw the peak of the battle between Anna van der Breggen and Annemiek van Vleuten. Everybody used to talk about their positioning on the bike, because you could look at Anna, her face, her body language, she always looked so calm. Annemiek would have a much more animated style, look like she was throwing it around, and then you'd never be able to tell who was going to take it out of the two of them, because their stance on a bike was so different, but they were both able to win Grand Tours, go solo to the big mountains. You know, they had the capability to go head to head in that, two completely different styles. So as you were to say to Annemiek, I think it also, well, yes, it also wouldn't have gone down well, because they were both the best in the world, so you wouldn't need to alter their position. But that's another thing, it's easy for onlookers to say, oh, I think they're slightly toed down or they're heel out, or I would correct that. But if it's working for them, they don't need to correct that. They've done so much testing with the team to see where they need to be, and they've got it drilled, they've got it right, it works for them.
From over, despite sharing the early intermediate split with Nirere, the difference between them at the third checkpoint was 10 seconds, and the fade has continued throughout to the run, I'm afraid, which actually all it does is underscore what a spectacular leader we have of this race, probably spurred on by natural pride in Mary. But for Lola, I'm afraid, is going to find herself way down, and that hot seat, which looks very good,
This is our first sighting of the actual hot seat, isn't it? With Nirere in there, you can just see her sort of already just hands over her face, like, because it's such a hard place to be, isn't it? It's a joyful place to go into hot seat, but you want to stay there for as long as possible. And yeah, but this just goes to show how important that pace thing is today.
and what Nirere did. I mean, she's hiding her smile because she's a modest person and doesn't to be celebrating. I guess with the failure of
I wouldn't be hiding it. No, I take that, and it's really interesting, isn't it, to see the array of emotions with someone who has into that pole position. They are sat in that hot seat, and we get to see take off around the course who is going to be who's got the best time, and it's a really interesting element of time trial, because sometimes to be fit, incredibly strong rider go off early, and then they are there bated breath for so long, but we have some incredibly fast riders out on his Marta Giesens at the moment, and just look at the speed, and I've been really trying to squint in at the second. Gearing of some of these riders to more recent starters, because we know how much pressure and power can be potentially retained on the descent. So that's going to have been a really big balancing point for still at the least maintain
akaba ari umukobwa w'umunyamerikakazi
on some of those power
umwongerezakazi wavukiye muri Amerika, akaba yaragiye atwara amasiganwa atandukanye.
coming through at
kugira ngo abantu bumve ibi bihangange ba
with an awful long way to go, but this should
isiganwa muri Amerika y'igihugu muri 2019. Ibihe byakoreshejwe na mwenyewe
talking about how pivotal air again on today. The number has fallen down, and yeah, that's not an ideal thing that we've done early on when we talk about everything on the spin suit being perfectly slick. But yes,
may I say something?
yes, you may.
It might actually help dissipate the air or rendering of hair on your legs. Stick with it.
Number. I don't
think it's deliberate, but I actually think, strangely, it might actually be helping. The odd little watt or two to dissipate, rather like the golf ball effect. You have dimples on a golf ball, and the reason that it flies further than a smooth golf ball is because it traps the air within those little, the small eddy currents form within the ball itself. And so the air that it's going through passes over more air, and so it actually has a less impact. So yes, there is a dissipation.
It might be a slight distraction, but no, it is a really interesting talking point. Well, it's very interesting for me as an tech geek, I must admit, but it is really interesting, and I've been privy to wind tunnel testing, to track testing, where you just constantly alter the smallest factors, and I've just had my jaw to the floor at the difference it makes immediately when you change one tiny factor, like you say, and we've understood more and more about aero gains over development and the understanding of why it really matters. And we joke about these things, but it could be as simple as one little ridge on a swimsuit or something like that. And I must just throw in my huge tangent that when I was heavily pregnant, I went cycling with one of my colleagues, Matt Stevens, and he because he believes that that is fact. And then I said, yes, but if I'm more aero, I'm going to say that's going to be out. And just quite literally, by the fact that I can barely get on the bike.
My javelins, for example, have sort of a rough surface on the tail. The problem is, if you
I'm not sure it's going to be worth
anyway, apparently it's also area they make it very painful.
That's the other thing, isn't it?
We go, and they're coming thick and fast right now. Our friend from Norway, still playing a trade on the course.
kubera ko impamvu televiziyo aba ari ikirahure pe umuntu yaguhenda kandi nanone kuyikoresha ugasanga ukoresheje haguze cyangwa kimwe cya kabiri cy'ikiyiguze ariko niba uyikoresha mu kazi wahera ukayikoresha ariko kuyigura yarapfuye
the sun indeed starts to rise. Same as Central European time, so we're just after 11 in the morning local time. Patapova comes to the line, and they all know how tough this has been. But every single finisher we have just adds to their rarest kudos as the home favourite doing an amazing job.
The first stop the ramp this morning, we were talking about how she hasn't measured the effort with this sport that she's got here, with the fact that the occasion for her was so massive, being the debut rider to go off in these World Championships, and being the Rwandan national TT champion. There were so many things that she had to measure. It's very hard to tell with the first riders, like the first rider off, what we're expecting from the field overall, but she put in such a measured effort. Her position looked so smooth. She got absolutely everything out of this cobbled section towards the last few hundred metres. And yeah, it was job done for her. She still sat in the hot seat. It's amazing.
Paladin just catching Benin's Westfield. And indeed, Sally Bryant did the right thing, just got out of the gave a decent gap between the pair. You're not allowed to sit in before 10 metres. That doesn't look like 10 metres to be so. The Benin rider just getting a little bit of aero assist, but she's just been over to the other side of the road goes Paladin. Now don't forget that Shang is also Paladin in a few moments' time, but as it is driving for the line is Paladin. She's already caught her 2.5 minutes athlete in Ahuisu. We're staying with Ahuisu right now, so the motorcycle doesn't get involved in a negative way, but now is allowed to move forward by the commissaire. Good work. And so it is that Paladin is in the most difficult part of the course. Now, Paladin was second quickest at the split, but gave away 1:12 to Zhang, who will be picking up, I presume, fairly soon. Meanwhile, further out on course, this is Van der Breggen, and just look at this first intermediate. The clock's green, she's not that far away from the intermediate, so one can only suspect that this is going to be a mighty trim. She is going to take the lead, so relieve Zavarine Nirere of her position in the hot seat. 12.9 kilometre marker is going to be this split, just a little bit of pixelation, you'll forgive us for that, and she's going to bring this one home. We're going to see a lot of chops and changes. This is essentially, I believe, going to be the first one. So it is Soraya Paladin, who has had a road back to recovery, and at least she gets a comfy chair, I imagine, in a few moments' time. Here's Van der Breggen, and there is the Tissot timing, and look at this for a trim. Van der Breggen finds 50 seconds and has to finish the job.
She does, but that's something she knows so well, is measuring her effort. I don't think I've ever seen her make mistakes in this scenario about what she expects from a course. And look at the position. She is just so well drilled at perfecting a time trial. I think what was so interesting coming into this season is how she would fare, and she's just delivered. So today's immensely exciting. But here is Soraya Paladin.
It is going to be our benchmark. We suspected that. She's been so strong out on the course. Just out, goes on to the drops, just gets out of the saddle to bring this one home. And thanks to Zavarine Nirere, but she's going to be relieved of that position in a few moments' time. Paladin is going to bring this home. Still quite a way to go. It's a tight camera angle. You can't quite see where she is relative to the finish, but she's into the rainbow stripes hoarded section, and here we go, heads up just to this crest. She's going to come over the top. It's going to be our first sub 50-minute time, and all credit to Paladin, just at that respite zone right now. It's almost cruelty in action as you watch it. Back out of the saddle, just wants to get the best time possible. You see the line, but actually it just seems to go further and further away from you with every pedal stroke. There is this little dish she has to go into and come out of once again. It's not the most challenging finale in terms of geography here, considering what she's already put in, but stops the clock. And 1:30 trim, we got a 48.36. That is a very strong time. And thanks to Zavarine Nirere for setting a great benchmark. But it's Soraya Paladin that takes the lead.
She'll leave that hot seat, but we just once again must mark what a brilliant benchmark she put in early on today. But Soraya Paladin, just weeks after breaking her collarbone, retiring from the tour, here she is now back in that hot seat.
May not be there for long because 1:12 they were separated at the third timing point. And Xiao Zhang coming in. Always very dialed in terms of the efficacy of their sports programs in China. They do physiological and sometimes psychological testing to make sure that athletes are absolutely cut out for their sport. And Zhang is a fantastic prospect. They have, of course, a wide population to pick from, but Zhang is absolutely at the top of her game, and this is going to be very impressive because Paladin's time was very, very good, and I think we're going to bust the 48s big time here. So a 47, let's see what the clock stops at in a few moments' time.
Wow.
Whoa, 47.23, that's a time.
That certainly is, and typical of me, just as I'm talking about who's taken to the hot seat, of course it's going to immediately switch, and that's another heartbreaking.
She finishes her run. Sigrid Bitterhus Ugezet, I think I said that right,